Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Fort Worth Community Arts Center, we'd like to welcome you folks to our boxed lunch program. We have a very, very special guest with us today, Councilwoman from District 9, Ann Zadeh. Welcome, Ann. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, we are so very glad that you took the time and decided to join us for lunch today. So looking forward to visiting with you a little bit. And before we do all that, would you mind just introducing yourself and giving us a little background of who and what you are?
Absolutely. As you said, I'm Ann Zadeh. I've served on the Fort Worth City Council representing District 9 since 2014. District 9 is kind of the urban core of the city, the downtown area, and many of the neighborhoods surrounding downtown. So I have a background in city planning, and I think that really lends itself to a lot of the decisions that I have to make as a city council representative and a representative of the residents of District 9 and the entire city, really. So I really enjoy that job. It's my full-time job, and I'm married to my husband, Jim, and we have two boys, Michael, who's 22 in college, finishing up, and Kyle, who's 18 and just about to graduate from high school.
Very nice, very nice. Well, happy belated Mother's Day to you, and I hope that you were able to receive some wonderful items.
Well, it's interesting that you should ask. I made a point of purchasing some things for myself just to make sure. The 18-year-old's been doing a lot of sleeping in lately, so I went over to Hot Box Biscuits and picked up their Mother's Day special, which included some heart-shaped biscuits and some tomato bisque soup, which I'm going to be having for lunch today. And some other items as well, but that Hot Box Biscuits over on South Main, and flowers as well. They had flowers as part of their Mother's Day package. So that's what I picked up. And then my boys did call me, and it was nice.
That's wonderful. I've found sometimes the best gifts are the ones you give yourself.
You usually can make sure you get what you want when you do that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So would you mind just telling us a little bit about what is on your lunch menu today and some of the ingredients that you'll be using to prepare it?
Absolutely. I'm going to be making some sandwiches today because I don't really do a lot of cooking, and I'll be heating up the soup that I mentioned earlier. But part of the sandwiches are going to be made with bread that I bought from The Table, which is over on St. Louis in the near south side. And this is rosemary garlic bread. It has cloves of garlic baked into it that are just absolutely delicious. And then I also have from Meyer Sage, I have tuna salad, which has capers in it because I love capers. And also from Meyer Sage, a chicken salad that I pick up there as well. So I'll be making little sandwiches with those salads that are already mixed up by people who are really good chefs and heating up some soup. And then finally for my drink today is I purchased sparkling tea from Leaves Book and Tea Shop, also on St. Louis, right next door to The Table. And this morning I actually went and exchanged my empty liter bottle and picked up a new bottle. So I had cranberry sencha previously, and today I have lemon hibiscus sparkling tea.
Very nice, very nice. Any appetizers or any additions to the chicken salad?
Oh, thank you for reminding me. So the other thing that I have, also created by Meyer Sage, is a very fancy cheese board. They make these in the small size and larger ones for parties and all sorts of things, but it's just, I mean, it's exquisite. It's like a work of art.
Absolutely gorgeous. That looks like a lunch all unto itself.
Yeah, and I can't wait to dig into this. It's beautiful.
Oh,
you hate to mess it up, but it's beautiful.
Yes, absolutely gorgeous. So my lunch menu is a little bit more simple for today. I'm going to be making quesadillas, and as you can see, I failed spelling in school, so I just phonetically tried to get as close as I could. And
I'm a terrible speller myself.
And my ingredients are pretty simple. I've basically got some tortillas, some meat, which is actually some chicken breasts that I shredded up, and then of course the ever important cheese. I'll be throwing a few more other things in there, but to each their own, and I'll show you those as we go through. So
all right.
Very nice. Okay, so I think we're going to go ahead and prep for lunch, and I'm going to throw some butter in my pan for the quesadillas. And while I'm doing that, I was wondering if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about what you've learned about yourself and or your organization during this time of this COVID-19 pandemic.
Well, I would have to say that one of the things that I've learned is, the city of Fort Worth, as I work with a great group of staff and my colleagues on the council, and then we have so many partnerships with businesses and nonprofits and other organizations throughout the city, that the thing that I have found is that people really come together and support each other. So we have been working really hard with our partner organizations to get the word out about resources that are available for businesses and for individual residents, different ways of supporting the businesses in our community through this time. And I've just found that in Fort Worth style, we tend to work really hard to work together and get the resources to people that are needed during these times. So I think that's the main thing that I've learned. It's something that I knew before, but it's just been on display to a greater extent during this time.
Yes, this is certainly something that I'm learning about myself as well. We think we know a lot, and then when we're in these different situations, a lot of those things really come to the top, and we not only learn a lot about ourselves, but also about the other people that are surrounding us in our bubbles, in our work environments, and also our personal environments as well. So.
Yeah. There's been a great, one of the organizations that comes to mind is the Tarrant Area Food Bank and the partnerships that they have done with different organizations that have helped and the various locations throughout the community where they're providing food to folks so that we can avoid food insecurities and that sort of thing. So that's been a really, really great partnership.
Wow. Yeah, it sounds like a fantastic resource as well. So I live by the Trinity River, and I've seen some of the murals that have gone up to beautify the city. Can you tell me something about that program?
Yeah, there's a couple of ways that murals kind of go up in the city, but one of them is through the graffiti abatement program. There are locations that tend to get tagged a lot, and when those locations are identified, graffiti abatement partners, sometimes with local artists, sometimes with art teachers at schools. So Pascal High School kids did it one that I worked on. And so they come together, find those locations, create the art, and then install the art. And people can volunteer to do that. A lot of times kids that are doing community service hours volunteer to do that painting. It's a really great thing for people who are not as artistic, because usually it's just kind of paint in the numbers kind of thing. You just stay within the lines and create a beautiful piece of artwork with the guidance of people who are more artistic than myself. But I've had the opportunity to do that in several locations. One was in a neighborhood called Sunset Heights, and that was a neighborhood-driven project. They partnered with Graffiti Abatement to do a really cool mural that was all little squares of color that made up a sunset and then a silhouette of cowboys. And then down on the Trinity Trail, like you're talking about, there was one that was done by one of the residences down there in partnership with Graffiti Abatement and the local artist.
Wow, yeah, it's really some great stuff. Very, very pretty. So thank you for sharing that with us. Okay, so I'm going to move forward here a little bit with some of my meal prep and just tell you kind of how I prepare these wonderful quesadillas. So I basically just take a little flour tortilla and drop it right down in the pan there. I melted a little bit of butter in there to give it a little bit of flavor. I've got my shredded chicken right here, which I'm just going to literally put right on top, spread around. And then I've also got a little bit of sweet peppers that I chopped up, and I'll drop those in there as well and just kind of push them that way. And then I also have some tomatoes and jalapenos here that I'll throw in there for a little bit of spice as well. Feeling a little cheesy today, so I'm going with some pepper jack slices. And if you've ever made grilled cheese or quesadillas, the cheese is literally the glue that holds it all together. So I'm gonna drop those down there, and then I basically just take a second tortilla and then just pop it right on top, and then just give it a little squeeze there. Push that all together, and then you can see in the pan, I'm just gonna fry that up and try to melt that all around. Do you want to talk a little bit about your prep?
Well, I had the bread already sliced up, and the chicken salad and tuna salad was already prepared, obviously. So the extent of my prep is basically spreading some chicken salad and some tuna salad on the already sliced up bread, where I can see the cloves of garlic that have been baked into the bread. And then I've got my bowl here prepared for my soup, and I had to step out of the frame a little bit to start my soup over on the stove, but that's over there getting started to get warmed up.
Well, it sounds like an absolutely fabulous meal. So while you're taking care of that, do you mind discussing a little bit how you envision successful ways that the arts and the city itself can pull together to make things happen now that businesses are starting to reopen?
Yeah, I think that during all of this, many of the arts organizations have actually stepped outside of their box and started to do some support in the communities that they're located in. Some of them volunteering with doing the food preparation and distribution, just being a part of those communities. The Near South Side is an amazing example of that. Many of the theater institutions over there have been supporting throughout this. And then I got an email recently from the folks at Stage West talking about the possibility of in the future doing some outdoor productions so that we could more easily do the physical distancing and continue to keep everybody safe, but also enjoy some of the arts. So I'm putting them in touch with the Parks Department to talk about kind of a partnership of where we could do some theater production type of stuff out in the community and utilize our parks. So that's kind of another example of public-private partnerships that we try to do in the city of Fort Worth.
It sounds like some really fabulous ideas. I think it's a great idea, not only for the arts to pull together in their messaging, but also if we're able to find a way to share these resources to get us back up on our feet as quickly as possible. It certainly seems like it would behoove all of us to dip our toes into that community pool and see if we can really focus on some singular ideas that benefit everybody. I know that there are a lot of organizations right now that are struggling to find not only their own voice, but also procedures and policies that'll help move them forward. So if we're able to kind of come together and find some things that unify us, not only in messaging, but also in practices, I think it'll be very beneficial and hopefully get us back on our feet as soon as we're able to do so. So thank you for that.
I know Visit Fort Worth has been doing, the Convention and Visitors Bureau has been doing a lot of publicizing of the different organizations, restaurants, and other services that are out there and available so that they can encourage people to support those local businesses. So the same thing with our arts organizations. And individual artists, there's a lot of different programs that people have stood up to support individual artists and people who don't work for somebody else in the traditional sense, different grants and programs, some of them including production of art, doing their art, and some of them just being grants and loans to help them during this time of financial strain.
Yes, indeed, indeed. On a little bit of a lighter note, what item or food venues are you most looking forward to indulging in once you venture out into the world?
Well, thankfully, I've been doing a lot of supporting local businesses with curbside pickup and delivery. So I don't feel like I'm just craving something that I haven't been able to partake in through this. I've just found another way to bring it to my home and do it in a safe physical distancing manner. But I do miss going to our local coffee shops, for example, and meeting up with people, either neighborhood leadership people or people working in the community, and just having those one-on-one meetings. I tend to try to stay away from making people come down to City Hall and traipse up to the third floor and sit in a stodgy conference room. I like to meet people out in the community and support the businesses that are in the community while I'm having meetings and work. So that's one thing that I really miss. And then going to neighborhood association meetings, I got my start kind of in service to the community, being active and involved in my own neighborhood association. And what I've done through the time that I've served on the council is to constantly go to neighborhood association meetings and support their efforts to support their communities on the smaller scale, the local neighborhood scale, and then help them be a part of the larger scale, more broader alliances throughout the community or with the city itself in that exchange with the city.
Wow, yes, there's some great insight in not only hearing about what the community's doing, but also being able to see it firsthand. So thank you for getting out there and listening to the people. It's very important. So can you talk?
Well, I always tell people the city is not something separate from yourself. We're all part of the city. So I'm happy to do that.
It's great to hear you say that. So I certainly appreciate you taking the time to get out there and and visit with the common folks, it seems like. So
We're all the common folks.
can you talk a little bit about what has become one of your favorite projects that you've had the privilege to work on?
Well, I touched on one thing that's very important to me in those last comments that I made about community engagement and building community and supporting community. But on a broader scale that's more citywide, I think one of the things that I've really been an advocate for is public transportation. Trinity Metro has continued to run public transit during this time, taking precautions and using physical distancing to keep people safe. Partnering with UNT Health Science Center for testing of their drivers, and partnering with other folks individuals who've sewn masks and provided different things for those drivers to continue to be able to do their essential business of getting people to work and getting people to doctor's appointments and that sort of thing. So it'll be an interesting thing to come out of this, and taking a look at public transportation and what the go forward is with that. But I think it's still a really important, vital part of any large city, and we are a large city, getting people around in a safe manner and providing options for people to walk places, bike places, take public transit, or drive in their own individual vehicles, as well as, you know, walking in the community. So I think that those are all important things that I have really enjoyed working on and will continue to work on going forward.
Yes, totally agree. All very essential to what it is we do and how we move around this great city. So okay, so I think we're going to move on to plating our lunches and prepping for our presentations. While we're doing that, do you have any special ingredients that you use or that they use that always ensure deliciousness?
Well, I mentioned at the very beginning of this that there are capers in the tuna salad. And I am a big fan of anything like with that pickled kind of flavoring. So anything with capers in it or a pickled kind of flavoring, I really, really enjoy. And the other nice thing about it is my dad loves capers too. And so every time I eat something with capers, I think about my dad and give him a call and tell him I'm eating delicious tuna salad with capers in it. So it's a fun ingredient.
So mine is tapatio, I believe it's called, and it's a little salsa picante. And what I do is I just mix that up with a little bit of sour cream. So I just kind of pour a little bit in there and then whip that around, and it's a nice little addition to dip the quesadillas in. So that's my my special, yes, my special ingredient for the day. All right, I'm going to start plating up my food, and while I'm doing that, I'd like to ask what helpful community resources that you are seeing or using personally, and how can your organization be assisted or provide assistance to other artists or organizations?
You know, I think that there's a couple of things. The city's website has a whole page devoted to COVID-19 resources. And on there are the things I mentioned before, the different grants and loans that are available, and other resources for testing, and recommendations for opening things back up again, if that's what a business is comfortable doing or an arts organization is comfortable doing. You know, best practices taken from the CDC and other medical professionals, which is what I'm highly recommending people adhere to. So all of that's available on the City of Fort Worth's website. It's very prominently located at the top under COVID. One thing that I know we've discussed, you and I, before going on camera, is just the importance of people considering their mental health during these times, because it's a trying and challenging thing to be as isolated as we are. And I personally am a very extroverted person who likes to be out in the community, talking to people and getting together with people. And as much as I love the people I'm here at home with, they are both very satisfied with being at home, and they're more introverted than I am. And so they think I use a lot of words, and I don't have as many people to use all my words on, being here just with them at home. So I think it's just very important for people to remember that if they're struggling, that's okay. And sharing with someone that you trust and think could help you find some help is an important thing to do. I have people personally in my life who've struggled with mental illness, and I think that it's super important to talk about that and not be stigmatizing that, and have people take care of their brains the same way we take care of our bodies. So I think that's an important message during these challenging times.
Absolutely. Self-help and awareness is certainly going to get us all through this. I could not agree more. So do you have any future plans or procedures for yourself or your organization? And I was also wondering where our viewers can find any current, past, or planned activities or programs for anybody who's interested.
So, I mean, as I talked about before, I do a lot of going out in the community. And before all of this started, I was about to set up a series of meetings to allow people to come together and talk about the things that are going on in their community and talk about what the city has available. There's resources that the city has available during regular times that are, still available now, but I'm always surprised at how often I run into people who have no idea about the things that the city has to offer and the things that are available. So all of that is on the city's website. And while I can't be having these in-person meetings right now, definitely we'll be looking at doing that in a healthy, safe way as things are able to open back up again, keeping a close eye on the recommendations of the medical professionals, as I mentioned before. But the city's website is a really good option. I always tell a funny story about one of the things that got me involved in running for office was people thinking that I had all these answers about how to get stuff done at the city. And the city's website has always been kind of my secret weapon, where you just go in there and do a Google search and you can find a lot of the things that the city has to offer. But people like you to provide that information for them, and I'm happy to do it because I'm constantly immersing myself in it. And that's, I think, why I'm surprised when other people don't know as much about what's out there and available. So I'm happy to continue to be a person that tries to get the word out.
Very nice. Well, we are very appreciative of you and all you do for us. So thank you so much for that. Okay, Ann, it's the moment of truth. Are you all plated and ready for presentation?
Okay, I'm gonna have to run over here real quick.
No worries.
Bubbling away.
I see some beautiful steam. I can smell it from here.
There you go.
All right, well, you're topping that off. I'll give you a little insight into mine here. So I'm all plated up now. I actually used actual porcelain plates today instead of paper. And I just literally cut mine up there and put a little bit of that special sauce on there. And then I opened up one of these so you can kind of see those wonderful ingredients right there on top. So it's looking good, and I'm pretty proud of myself.
There you go. Well, I'm going to try not to have this all slide off. Can you see that?
I can.
I did here the soup in a little yellow Fiestaware bowl, and I cut my sandwiches into a little bit smaller sandwiches this time, and on my chartreuse Fiestaware plate. I think I shared with you before that I'm a big fan of Fiestaware. I like all the colorful stuff.
Oh, so. It's absolutely beautiful. Can I get one more peek at that cheese tray?
Yes, absolutely. There you go.
I just can't get over that craftsmanship. That is absolutely.
I know, there's flowers.
Wow. Now, where do we find them again?
This is from Meyer Sage, which is located over in the Foundry District off of West 7th behind Target. So it's called Meyer Sage. And they've got a lot of grab and go stuff. Things, and you can sign up for some meal prep. My husband doesn't eat gluten, and they do a lot of amazing entrees that are gluten-free. So that makes my life really easy with the lack of cooking that goes on around here. I can make fancy food without making fancy food.
Very nice. Well, with that being said, I think it might be time to eat. And I can't thank you enough for taking the time and joining me for lunch today. Some really fabulous information that you've shared with us. And again, we are just so grateful to all you and all of the city personnel are doing. So please stay safe out there and enjoy your lunch. And when all this is lifted, if you want to invite me over for one of those cheese trays, I'd be happy to join you. So
I think I need to have a party with one of their bigger versions after this is all done. So yes,
very
absolutely.
Nice.
Thank you for making me a part of this. I'm happy to support the arts in Fort Worth.
Well, we are so grateful that you took the time. So with that being said, we'll enjoy our lunch. I want to remind everybody we'll be back with boxed lunches on Friday. We'll have Ariel Davis with us, who is a local artist as well. And Ann, I believe you might have shared with me that you have some of her artwork hanging in your house. Is that correct?
I do. Ariel was one of the artists at the Near Southside Shindig not this last year, but the year before, and they were live painting during the event, and she wasn't able to attend, but she chose me as the subject of her painting. It was a theme on women leading the Near South Side, and she did a painting of me, which I definitely purchased at that event so that it ended up in my house and not someone else's house. But I'm a big fan of Ariel Davis. She does beautiful work, and I'm pleased to be the owner of one of her paintings and the subject of one of her paintings. It was an honor.
Well, if you get a chance, just snap a picture with your phone and put it down on the comments once we get this up on Facebook. I'd absolutely love to see it. So
I will definitely.
Yes, indeed. So enjoy your lunch, Ann, and we'll go ahead and say goodbye. Don't forget, folks, to follow us at the Fort Worth Community Arts Center on Facebook. We're also on Twitter and Instagram. We have a brand new YouTube channel as well with some wonderful quarantine content. So stay safe out there, everybody, and we'll be back on Friday with another episode of Boxed Lunch. So have a great afternoon, everyone. We'll see you real soon. And Ann, bon appetit. Enjoy that lunch, all right?
I will.
Cheers. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.